Hey guys, good morning. It's Tara here, and I'm back for my Wednesday videos, back in my office, but I've got my coffee with me. It's been an interesting morning, as mornings go. If any of you, sorry, every time I do that with the table, this thing shakes, so sorry about that. For any of you guys out there who have rough mornings getting your kids off to school or daycare or wherever they have to go, I would love like a heart or a comment or tell me about what you're doing to make things easier. Because there's a lot of emotions and not listening and toughness around here in the Allen household in the mornings. So we're still trying to navigate through that. My mom had a good suggestion, which was to try to put the kids' shoes on before leaving the house because we do that last minute, which is a good suggestion. But we don't walk around the house with our shoes on, number one. We try to leave them by the door and put them on last minute. And number two, even if I do put them on early, they get like taken off and thrown all about. So I feel like it doesn't help there. But any kind of getting out the door strategies with two kids who do not want to go, I would gladly take those right here. So you could drop them in the comments for me, and that's just a little personal favor towards me. I would help that. So that's why I haven't dried my hair yet, and I'm not really good at the bun situation. By the way, I think the fact that buns are back in is an awesome thing because it means that we don't have time to do our hair all the time. We just throw them up in the bun. But how come so many people's buns look so perfect? I feel like it should always be messy, like messy, not like perfect messy bun. So I'm trying to bring back the weird bun. Let's call it the weird bun. Anyway, I digress. It's been a morning, and so I've got my coffee with me today, so don't mind me. And today I'm talking about goal setting and strategy because I've said it for years. I always felt this like new energy for myself, and I know I've talked to a lot of other people who feel the same when September comes and it's back to school. Whether you have kids that are going to school or not, it's like that renewed sense of back to routine, maybe a new schedule, and from typically taking a summer that is maybe a little bit more lax, I find most people are really ready to get back on track. They want to get back on track with their health goals. They want to kind of, end the year on a good foot. But then, sort of like what happens in January, maybe the end of October comes, it's Halloween, there's Halloween candy, which leads to Thanksgiving pies, which leads to Christmas cookies or Hanukkah cookies or whatever. And at some point, I feel like most people just hit that point where they say, forget it, I'll just start again in the new year. And they kind of give up on that energy that they had, from September. So anyway, we're heading into, so Monday is October 1st, which I always love when a new month starts on a Monday because I feel like it's a new week, a new month, and it's just kind of like extra special. So October 1st is Monday, and we're heading into the last 3 months of the year. So for those of you who run your own business, or maybe if you just work in business, it's like Q4, the fourth quarter, the last quarter of the year, and it's like that last chance to give your biggest efforts to make the best of the year, to make the best of 2018. And I think it's a good time for us to take advantage maybe of this energy that we still have from the September change in routines and wanting to maybe hit some new goals or reestablish old goals that we never followed through on. But a lot of people say, okay, but there's competing demands. And so they'll say, well, I want this and I want this. Or people will try to take on too much at once, which doesn't ever work. So there's got to be a little bit of strategy to it. So today, what I'm going to go over is kind of how to pick what your goal could be for yourself. And then another time, maybe another video, I will break it down to then how to take that goal and to actually come up with an action plan to help you achieve that goal. So today we're not coming up with an action plan, but we're really just going back and forth between, what it is that you really want to focus on. So I've got, I don't even know how many right here. I've got 7 steps for you today, and it's about goal setting and strategy, all right? So step number 1 is taking a look back. So look back on whether you want to do the last 3 months or 2018 so far as a whole. And this is a good time, not beat yourself up, but this is a good time to think about what you've done well. Think about, maybe some changes that you've already made, because a lot of times I find people, they do make changes and they forget about them and they forget to celebrate where they've already come from. And when you're coming from that place where you forget to celebrate what you've done and you're just beating yourself up in your head, that negative energy is never going to birth something positive out of that. You're not going to be wanting to take care of yourself. You're not going to feel confident to take on new goals if you don't remember that you already accomplished some old goals. So take this time, look back, think about, some good things that you've done, or some good skills that you have. Maybe you worked on some personal development this year. Maybe you worked on something in your business or at work. Maybe you read a book about parenting that's helped you become a better mom. I don't know. Whatever it is, think about where you've come, how far you've come in this year. It could be something small. It doesn't matter. But I'm sure that you can come up with something that you're proud of that you've done this year. And then from there, think about if anything has changed. Do you now have any kind of new priorities? So sometimes people will, have a new diagnosis that they got at their doctor's, or a new reason to focus, let's say, on their health, or let's say on their nutrition. So, a lot of times people will come to me, and now that I'm posting a lot of my daughter's lunch boxes, I get tons of messages and emails from people saying, that looks so great, but my kid is X years old and I think it's too late for them now. I didn't start them when they were babies, so, it's a lost cause. It's never, never, never a lost cause. But sometimes I do feel like this is a good chance for the whole family to be in it together, right? Because we can't be sending our kids off with this healthy lunch if we're eating garbage. We kind of have to model it for them too. So sometimes that's the new priority that comes about. Like, oh my gosh, now I'm seeing for the first time how much junk my kid is eating. And I realize that in order to help them out, I have to take a look at what I'm doing and what I'm eating. And maybe you have some new roles. So, you might have more time now than you did over the summer or in the beginning of 2018. You might have less time. Maybe you have more roles, more things. You just became a board member of the PTA and whatever. Maybe you've got lots of stuff going on. So that's okay. Just take a look at what that is, and then you'll be able to incorporate that when you're setting your goals. So step 1 is to take a look back. Do a little reflecting. It's a good time to do some journaling, or take a blank piece of paper and your cup of coffee or tea or green smoothie, whatever you want to drink, and take a little time to look back. What are you proud of that's happened? What maybe has changed that might set up your goals for the future? And then step number 2 is to look for opportunities. So if you're feeling frustrated, that's usually a sign. It's like a signpost to show you where you are right now and where you want to be. And that gap in between where you are right now and where you want to be usually kind of goes right along with your level of frustration. So the frustration is not necessarily a bad thing. The frustration helps us to know and realize that there's a gap from where we are right now and where we want to be. It's like, oh, right, I'm not quite where I want to be yet. Incidentally, kind of a side note, that's a big thing to look for in relationships too. I am no relationship expert, but one thing that I've learned, and it's been eye-opening for me, is that when you're frustrated with your partner, a lot of times it's because you have a certain expectation that they didn't meet, and they don't necessarily know what your expectations are. And maybe that's not even on to you to tell them what your expectations are for them, right? You're not supposed to be writing out the owner's manual for them. They get to decide who they are. But if you're feeling frustrated, or sometimes anxiety comes from this place too, a lot of times it's that you expected them to do something or to say something or to act a certain way. I used to have road rage when I was very young, like in my early 20s. And I learned, first of all, how ridiculous it is. And a couple of things. Number 1, I'd rather believe that that person is rushing off to some emergency or something like that if they cut me off. Because why not? Why not believe that? Even if there's a very small chance that that's really what's going on. If it helps me to stay calm and be happy, I'm like, Go do you. It's nothing personal. They didn't cut me off because they hate me. They don't even know me, right? It's just the way that they drive. I don't get upset about those things anymore. Obviously, if it's like a near miss, that kind of can rattle you. But otherwise, I don't get mad about the way people drive. And the main reason is because I don't expect much from people when I get on the road. I go on the road and I expect that there's going to be people that I think are not driving very well. Every single day I get behind the wheel and I expect that people are going to be driving like jerks. And what that does is that kind of lets me be okay with whatever happens. And the same thing goes for here. So if you're frustrated with something, a lot of times it means that there's a gap between where you are right now and where you want to go. So pay attention to that frustration. And make a note of that, because maybe those are some opportunities for you. Maybe that's where your new goal is going to come from. So you can think about where things could be better and try to avoid using the word should. You don't want to, what is that statement? You can't, don't should all over yourself. Because that doesn't do any good either. Like, oh, I should have done this. I should do that. Is it something that you want to do? Is it something that's reasonable? Then write it down. Okay. So these are your opportunities. So your frustration might be that you're frustrated. I'm gonna use weight as an example. Okay. Because you guys know I'm all about health. Health is first and foremost in my mind. For a lot of my clients, their biggest issue on their mind when they come to me, at the time that they come to me, is their weight. That's their frustration. That's what they feel they can't change. That's what they feel is lowering their confidence. And we get to the health. We do all of those things and we work on the weight at the same time. So I'm going to use that as an example just because I know it's such a common one. So a lot of people are frustrated with their weight. They're frustrated that they can't lose the weight, or they're frustrated that they're still gaining weight. A lot of these people are such successful women and they feel like, I've had such great success in other areas of my life. I'm on top in my career and I'm, this busy mom and I'm doing this and I'm doing that. Why is this weight an issue for me? Why can't I get it under control when I've been able to do everything else? Well, that's because it's very complicated and because there's tons of input coming in. Controlling one's weight has to do with food and exercise as much as it has to do with emotions and feeling worthy, and did you deal with that trauma in your past, and all of these things coming in. So without somebody to kind of help spell that out, it's hard. It's hard to tackle that by yourself. So if your frustration is about weight, then you can kind of notice that you're frustrated because you're here and you want to be here. And, it kind of seems simple, but sometimes it really takes that thinking process to get it down. If your frustration is that every time you drive past fast food, you get it, you're frustrated because on one hand, you're saying that you want to stop eating the fast food, and on the other hand, your action is telling you different. So again, there is that gap between that. So then step number 3 is think about in an ideal world how you would handle that. So this is where you get to not be realistic. This is where you're just journaling and you just get to be as creative as you want to be and come up with ideas. If you had all the money in the world, if you had all the resources in the world, how would you get to your goal? What would help you? What types of things would you do? What types of people would you have on your team? Think about it from that perspective, because then what you could do is you can then switch that around into the real world and think about what you do have available at your fingertips. So maybe you don't have the means to be able to hire a personal chef. I don't know but that many people who do. But we can look at, what would be an easier way to systematize your meals. Maybe it's pre-cooking some food. Maybe it's that you just don't have your hands on easy enough recipes that are healthy. Maybe it is like a food swap with a friend where you make a double batch of something, they make a double batch of something, and you guys swap, and now you have 2 meals, but you only had to cook 1, right? There's all kinds of things that can be thought of once you realize what the issue is, where you want to improve, and in an ideal world, how you would handle that, then we can look more realistically at that. Okay, so step number 4 is getting to your strategy ideas. So here you want to make a statement that is, I choose A even over B. You want it to say even over. And the idea here is that you're not choosing like one thing that you want to do versus one thing that you don't want to do. So let's say you don't like exercise. what you don't want to say here is, I want to lose weight even over exercising. Because you're like saying the one thing that you want versus the other thing that you don't want. What you want to do here is choose two things that you actually really do want. So two competing demands here. Two things that you feel like it's hard to do at the same time, and you have to choose from them. So this is the hardest step, I would say, because you're actually making a decision for what you're going to focus on. The idea is to focus on one thing, and you're going to carry that through, and you're going to find success. You're going to have momentum, and you are going to trust yourself again, because you're going to be able to see yourself through this process, and then you'll be unstoppable because you'll be able to do this process over and over again in your life for whatever it is that you want to create. So let's see, I'm going to come up with an example. A even over B, like what would be a good one here? You could say, I want to, let's say you want to lose weight, but you love ice cream. So what you might want to do here, because there are two things here, is that you really want to keep eating ice cream, but you also really want to lose weight. What you might say here is, I'm going to eat healthier even over eating ice cream. So two competing demands. Well, I really love the ice cream, but I really want to eat healthier. And for a short period of time, you get to decide how long it is. You're going to choose the one over the other. So yeah, in this case, it means that you're going to give up ice cream for a certain period of time. Do I think it should be forever necessarily? No, but I do think that you should be really strict with yourself for the time frame that you give yourself so that you can learn to trust yourself. So that's the big idea here. The big idea is that you're sticking to the goal and you're learning how to trust yourself, because I promise you, when you do that, you really will become unstoppable. So step number 5 now is to let that marinate for a while. So you're going to go with that. Let's say I want to eat healthy even over eating ice cream. I don't love that actually, because it's not specific enough. Let me say I'm going to eat 5 servings of vegetables even over eating ice cream. Okay, because you know the 5 servings of vegetables, they've got lots of fiber, they're good for you, they're going to help fill you up. And if you're filled up more, it's going to help you with weight loss. But then you're going to have to choose that over the ice cream, right? So that would be probably a little bit better. I'm going to choose 5 servings of vegetables a day, even over eating ice cream. Now you're going to let that marinate. You're going to think about it. Take an hour, take a couple of days, whatever you want. But if you want to start this on Monday, October 1st, for the last 3 months of the year, then you want to think about this at least by the end of the weekend. But let that statement marinate. Think about if it feels right to you. Is it like a hell yeah when you think about it? Because if it's not a hell yeah, you're not going to stick to it. So then keep trying on different statements. Keep going back to the drawing board and figuring out what it is that you want to pursue, what it is that you're willing to sacrifice, and pick which thing that you want over this thing. Usually the balancing act here comes down to choosing to be maybe a little bit uncomfortable in the moment for long-term comfort. So what we've gotten good at is choosing short-term comfort and then suffering for it in the long term, right? So that's when we want to lose weight, but we choose to eat the crappy foods anyway. We're choosing that short-term quick fix to make us feel better, and then in the long term, we're suffering, right? And we're not getting any closer to our goals. So what you want to do is kind of think about switching this around a little bit. Pick something that is not as fun up front, that's not as comfortable up front, but in the long run, you're going to be more comfortable because you're going to be losing the weight. You're going to be getting healthier. You're going to have to buy smaller clothes if that's something that is your goal. You're going to notice that you're getting stronger in your workouts. Whatever it is, you're choosing something. Like exercise is a perfect example. Sometimes it can be a little uncomfortable when you're exercising, or you might have that burn afterwards or whatever, but in the long term, you're getting your body stronger. So it's about being able to put that first. So let that marinate for an hour, a day, or whatever. Make sure it feels right. Make sure you're like, yeah, this is who I am. I could totally do this. And then you're going to commit. And this is where you get to choose your time frame. And I want you to be really realistic here. It's great to say you're going to do this until the end of the year, December 31st. I'm going to do it for 3 months. But usually that's not realistic. So you get to pick. You're going to do it for 1 month. So for the whole month of October, you're going to choose to eat your 5 servings of vegetables even over ice cream. So you're going to eat 5 servings of vegetables every day, and you're not going to eat any ice cream if that's what you choose. You're going to choose to work out, go for a 20-minute walk every single day. That means, what are you going to do on rainy days? Maybe you have access to a treadmill. You have to think through all the things that have been a barrier in the past. Think through all the things that might come up. If you're going to commit to something, think through those hurdles that might be coming up so that you've got a plan in place, okay? If the whole month, if 31 days of October feels like a lot to you, that's probably because it is. That's probably because it's a big change. So maybe you can either shrink the change a little bit, make it something a little bit more manageable, or maybe you can do it for a shorter time period. Say, do it for a week and see. If you can commit to something that you've never been able to commit to before, long term, and you can do that for a week or 2 weeks or a whole month, just imagine how freaking proud of yourself you're going to be at the end of the month or the end of the 2 weeks. You're going to be on fire. You're going to want to set another goal. You're going to achieve that goal. And by the time you start 2019 on January 1st, and if you want to do a new set of New Year's resolutions, you're probably going to be really good at this goal setting thing, and you're probably going to pick something that you're able to accomplish and finally stick to something. So that's why it's so important to end the year on a high note so that you carry that momentum right into the new year. So commit to your time frame and stick to it. Make sure it's something that you will stick to no matter what. Like I said, think through all of the things that might come up. And then step number 7 is just to check back in with yourself after that time frame. So if you say for the whole month of October, you're going to do X, Y, or Z, then on October 31st or on November 1st, you're looking back and you're saying, how did that month go? What went really well? What was really tricky? Next time around, how would I maybe change that? Maybe the goal wasn't big enough. Maybe it was a little bit too big and I struggled a lot there. Whatever, you're going to look back and you're going to think about how that everything went. It's almost like a debrief at the end. And then that is like your launch pad to start a new goal and the whole system over again. So this is just how you're going to choose your goal, your focus, the one thing that you're going to focus on. Like I said, this whole video today is just about that. Another time I'll go through then how, when you have that goal, how you break that down into a whole plan that's going to allow you to, have like your little rule book for sticking to it. Your roadmap, let's say roadmap, I like that a little bit better. So you'll have your roadmap and then you can say, okay, this is what I'm going to do. This is how I'm going to achieve that goal. When X, Y, or Z happens, this is how I'm going to handle that. When I'm sick, this is how I'm going to handle that. When the kids are sick, this is how I'm going to stick to my goals no matter what. Okay? Because the only way that you can have confidence in any area of your life is if you know that you can trust yourself. That's where it all comes from. Self-confidence doesn't come from the way that you look. Self-confidence, you can talk to somebody that you might think is the most beautiful person in the world, and I promise you they have insecurities. We all do. But they might be one of the least amount of confidence that you've ever seen. That didn't come out right. They might have very low confidence. And so confidence doesn't come from these specific achievements, but it comes from being able to set yourself a goal and trust yourself and stick to it. That's when the confidence is like almost palpable. You can actually feel it. It's coming out of people. So that's it. So that's your 7 steps. To recap, you're going to look back. What's been going well? What might have changed recently? And then this way you can start that to propel forward. Step number 2, you're going to look for opportunities. So when you're thinking about what you're frustrated about, where is there an opportunity for you to improve? Step number 3, you're going to think about the ideal world. So if you had all the resources and money in the world, how would you deal with this opportunity? What would you put in place? Then at the end of that, you can boil down to how do you take those unrealistic things right now and turn them into things that you do have access to right now. We live in an age where you can get your hands on any information. So nobody's problem is lack of information. And creativity. With information and creativity, you can come up with anything here. Step number 4, those are your actual strategies where you're picking. You're going to say you want A even over B, okay? This is your option where you're choosing this even over this. This is where you're showing that little bit of sacrifice. This is where you're showing that you're going to choose long-term comfort over short-term comfort. Step number 5, you're just going to let it marinate. You're going to let it sit. You're going to try it on for size. Make sure this is really what you want to focus on. And then step number 6, you're going to commit to it. You can even write yourself like a little promise note or something. For the next 31 days, the whole month of October, for the next 90 days if it's a small goal, for the next 2 weeks, I'm going to do this. And then step number seven is that you are going to check back in after that time frame is over, ideally right away, like the next day or something, and you're going to take a look back at how that went. Do a little debrief. Tell yourself, did that go well? Are you proud of yourself? Have you built your confidence because you accomplished something? If not, that's okay. It's a learning experience. And then next time around, maybe you can set yourself a smaller goal, something that you can definitely take on and take on successfully. Okay? So I hope those tips helped you. If you want to share with me what your your strategy statement is, I would love to hear that for you. You can put it in the comments. You can send me a private message if it's something personal that you don't want to share. I would love to hear it, and I'd love to help you and kind of coach you through it if I could do that. So take advantage of that. I'm offering you up a little bit of free coaching. So have a great Wednesday, you guys, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.